a stark and provocative statement attributed to U.S. President Donald J. Trump has once again drawn global attention to the fragile and volatile relationship between the United States and Iran. In the statement, Trump warned that if Iran were to violently suppress peaceful protesters, the United States would come to their rescue, adding that American forces were locked and loaded and ready to go. The message, delivered in Trump's characteristically blunt style, has reignited debate over U.S. policy toward Iran, the use of military threats as deterrence, and the risks of escalation in an already tense region. The remark comes against a backdrop of long-standing hostility between Washington and Tehran, shaped by decades of mistrust, sanctions, proxy conflicts, and opposing visions for the Middle East. Iran has repeatedly faced international criticism for its handling of domestic protests, with human rights groups accusing Iranian security forces of using excessive force against demonstrators. The United States, across multiple administrations, has condemned such actions, though the language and approach have varied significantly. Trump's statement reflects a strategy he employed frequently during his presidency, using strong, public warnings to deter adversaries and signal resolve. Supporters argue that such rhetoric projects strength and may prevent abuses by making consequences clear in advance. Critics, however, warn that threatening military action in response to internal unrest in another country risks miscalculation and could inflame tensions rather than protect civilians. At the heart of the statement is the issue of peaceful protest in Iran. Over the years, Iranians have taken to the streets to protest economic hardship, political repression, fuel price hikes, and broader demands for reform. Iranian authorities have often characterized these protests as foreign-backed unrest, while Western governments and human rights organizations have framed them as legitimate expressions of public frustration. Reports of arrests, internet shutdowns, and the use of force by security services have fueled international concern. By declaring that the United States would come to their rescue, Trump positioned Washington as a potential protector of Iranian civilians. However, the phrase raises immediate questions. What form would such rescue take? Diplomatic pressure, economic sanctions, cyber operations, or direct military intervention? The ambiguity is part of what makes the statement both powerful and controversial. The line, "locked and loaded and ready to go," suggests military readiness, a phrase that resonates strongly given the history of U.S.-Iran confrontations. During Trump's presidency, tensions peaked following the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, the reimposition of sweeping sanctions, and the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. drone strike. Iran responded with missile attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq, bringing the two countries to the brink of open conflict. In that context, Trump's warning can be seen as an extension of a broader maximum pressure strategy, combining economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and credible military threats to influence Iranian behavior. The administration argued that pressure would force Iran to change its conduct both at home and abroad. Iran, for its part, accused the United States of economic warfare and interference in its internal affairs. International reactions to such rhetoric are typically mixed. U.S. allies often share concerns about human rights in Iran, but are cautious about language that could justify military intervention. European governments, in particular, have emphasized diplomacy and multilateral engagement, warning that aggressive statements could undermine efforts to de-escalate tensions and protect civilians. At the United Nations, calls for restraint are common whenever U.S.-Iran tensions flare. The UN Charter emphasizes state sovereignty and non-interference, while also affirming the importance of human rights. Balancing these principles has long been a challenge for the international community, especially when allegations of state violence against protesters arise. From Iran's perspective, statements like Trump's are often portrayed as proof of hostile intent. Iranian leaders have consistently accused the United States of seeking regime change and exploiting internal unrest to weaken the country. Such narratives can be used domestically to justify crackdowns, with authorities arguing they are defending national security against foreign plots. This dynamic highlights a central paradox. While external pressure is intended to deter repression, it can sometimes harden the resolve of governments under scrutiny, making internal situations more volatile. Analysts warn that public military threats tied to internal protests risk placing protesters themselves in greater danger, as regimes may react more forcefully to demonstrate control. The phrase, "Thank you for your attention to this matter," at the end of Trump's statement underscores his direct, almost transactional style of communication. It transforms a grave warning into a concise message aimed as much at a global audience as at Iran's leadership. In the age of social media and rapid information flows, such statements travel instantly, shaping perceptions and expectations on all sides. For the United States, the broader question is how to support human rights abroad without triggering conflict. Military intervention, even when framed as humanitarian, carries immense risks, including civilian casualties, regional destabilization, and long-term entanglement. Recent history in the Middle East has made both policymakers and the public wary of promises that force can quickly resolve complex political crises. For Iran, the challenge remains how to address domestic grievances while managing external pressure. Economic sanctions have strained the Iranian economy, amplifying public discontent, while confrontations with the United States have limited Tehran's diplomatic options. Internal reform, repression, and resistance to foreign pressure are all paths Iran has pursued at different times, with mixed results. Trump's warning, therefore, should be understood not as an isolated remark, but as part of a larger pattern of U.S.-Iran relations marked by sharp rhetoric, strategic signaling, and deep mistrust. Whether such statements deter violence or increase the risk of escalation depends on how they are interpreted and acted upon by all parties involved. As history has shown, words spoken by world leaders can have consequences far beyond their immediate audience. In regions already burdened by conflict and uncertainty, the line between deterrence and provocation is thin. Trump's statement adds another chapter to the ongoing story of U.S.-Iran tensions, one that underscores how quickly internal unrest, international politics, and military power can intersect, with potentially far-reaching implications for regional and global security.